The story kicks off with a massive battle where the conqueror, Lufus Mephial, is fighting a group called the Heroes. She's shouting about how she'll become strong enough to eradicate all the inequality and injustice in the world. The heroes think they've got her cornered, telling her she's finished, but Lufus just laughs and says they're the ones who are finished. She reveals she's not done yet, and the heroes freak out when they realize she was taking their attacks on purpose to activate her climax skill. She unleashes Subspace Seal, and as she's defeated, a voice congratulates the heroes and tells them now they can go fight the Devil King, Orm. We then switch to the player behind Lufus, who thinks this was an awesome way to end the game. He's super satisfied with how it all played out and has no regrets. But then a strange message appears on his screen from someone named Alovinus, the goddess of all creation. The player immediately recognizes her as the creator goddess from the game's lore and figures the game company must be stepping in because his character, Lufus, had become such a massive, unofficial final boss. The message asks him, "Will you accept T?" And without a second thought, he clicks yes, ready for whatever new role they have planned for him. Suddenly, everything changes. He's in a new place, and people are yelling that the summoning worked, but they didn't get the hero. He's totally confused, asking where he is and wondering if it's a prank. Then he looks down and sees he has a female body with giant boobs, and he feels wings on his back. He has a full-blown panic attack when he realizes he has become his character, Lufus. He remembers spending hours in character creation just because he thought watching a cute girl would be more motivating, but he never wanted to be her. He wonders if he's dreaming or if he got sucked into the game world, which is something he thought only happened in manga. He decides he needs to get information fast, so he tries to ask the people around what's happening. But when he opens his mouth, the haughty, commanding voice of Lufus comes out instead, asking them to explain the situation. The player is horrified. He didn't mean to say that. His role-playing persona has completely taken over his speech. To make things worse, he feels an intense pressure in the air and realizes Lufus's racial skill, pressure, must be active, which is terrifying everyone around him. He mentally screams at his own power to calm down and stop the skill. After a tense moment, the pressure finally disappears. The summoners, able to breathe again, are now certain they have resurrected the legendary conqueror. Lufus, with the player having a bit more control now, singles out an elf and commands her to explain everything. The elf tells her that 200 years have passed since she was sealed away. The Devil King is still alive, and they were trying to summon a hero with a spell called Xgate, but Lufus appeared instead. The player is processing all of this. He's really in the game world, 200 years in the future from the timeline he knew. He thinks it's wild that the Xgate spell is a real thing, since it was just a piece of lore that gave the game its name. Seeing how scared everyone is, he decides it's best to leave. Speaking as Lufus, he announces that he has no intention of conquering the world again and was satisfied with his defeat. He tells them to forget about him and go summon another hero. With that, he takes off into the sky, discovering that he instinctively knows how to fly with his new wings. Once he's alone, the player is actually bursting with excitement. He thinks this is the coolest thing ever. Like a wild last boss has just appeared in the world. As a gamer, he can't imagine anything more fun than exploring his favorite game world as his max-level character. He decides finding a way back home can wait. He spots a familiar landmark, the Sky Tower of Mafal, his old base from the game, and flies towards it. Seeing it in person feels strangely nostalgic, and he gets a flash of a memory of him and his friends, other players, celebrating their victories there. Inside, a woman greets him with tears in her eyes, calling him Mistress Lufus and saying she's been waiting for 200 years. The player has no idea who she is, which completely crushes her. She introduces herself as Dina, his loyal advisor. It takes him a second, but then he remembers creating a random background NPC named Dina to act as set dressing for the base. He's shocked. A simple NPC gained self-awareness and waited for him for 2 centuries. This confirms it. He's not in the game anymore, but a real world based on it. Lufus quickly covers for her mistake, praising Dina for her unwavering loyalty, which makes Dina overjoyed. Dina then fills him in on the state of the world. The 7 heroes who defeated him went on to found their own nations. 4 have died of old age, but 3 with longer lifespans are still alive. The player wonders if they might be other players like him. Dina also reveals that the Devil King is still around because he completely wiped the floor with the so-called 7 heroes. Then she brings up the 12 heavenly stars, which were Lufus's elite companion monster, NPCs that the player collected. He remembers creating them because he thought a final boss should have cool generals. Dina knows where 6 of them are, but she has bad news. 2 of them join the Devil King's army to get revenge on the humans for Lufus's defeat. Lufus is furious, calling their actions disgraceful and declaring they need a good reaming out. This gives the player a new purpose. He'll travel the world, gather the scattered 12 heavenly stars, and check out those remaining heroes. Dina tells him the closest star is Ares the Ram, who is holed up in a volcano near the city of Svel. Conveniently, one of the 7 heroes, Magrez, also lives in Svel. As Lufus prepares to leave, Dina stops her and asks if she has any money. Lufus has none, and Dina admits she's also broke after 200 years of waiting. They need to earn cash, but Dina says it's going to be hard because Lufus is incredibly famous, and her black wings are considered a symbol of evil. The player thinks black wings are pretty generic, but Dina insists they are not common at all. Her solution is for them to become adventurers, a job where your background doesn't matter. They head to a nearby city and find the Adventurers Guild. Lufus has to wear a cloak to hide her identity. Inside, she feels a sense of nostalgia, as she used to be an adventurer in the game before becoming the Conqueror. They check the quest board and decide to take on an orc extermination job for 1500 L. The player remembers farming orcs, or pork bowls as he called them, for a rare item that raised max HP. They go to the client's village, where the people are desperate. They tell Lufus the orcs have been killing their men and kidnapping their women, begging her for help. Lufus calmly assures them that the matter is settled. On the way to the orc's den, the player checks his stats and is relieved to see he's still max level with all his abilities. Now he faces the real test. Can he actually bring himself to kill a living thing? When the orcs attack, he uses his alchemize skill to create a sword and slices one down. He's surprised to find that he feels absolutely nothing. His mind is completely undisturbed. More orcs charge, but to him, they're moving in extreme slow motion. He finds them pathetically slow and frail, and he starts taking them down with his bare hands. It's then that he has a profound realization. It's not that the orcs are weak or slow. It's that he is overwhelmingly, unbelievably strong and fast. The gap in power is so immense that his perception of time is completely different from theirs. He understands that what he's doing isn't even a fight. It's not a game. It is just simple, one-sided slaughter. After Lufus finishes slaughtering the orcs, Dina runs up to her all excited, telling her they got lucky. Lufus is confused and asks what she means by lucky, so Dina holds up a piece of meat and explains that it's the orc tenderloin. She says that if the tenderloin remains undamaged when an orc is killed, all of its vitality stays inside it, and when you eat it, it enhances your own vitality. The player behind Lufus immediately realizes she's talking about the buff item from the game that permanently raises max HP. Dina goes on to explain that since orcs are always fighting, there's only a 3% chance of getting an undamaged tenderloin. Lufus thinks it's interesting to hear the in-game drop rate explained as real-world lore and decides that from now on, they'll always aim to kill enemies without damaging the tenderloin. Dina promises to cook them up later so they'll be fit for Mistress Lufus to eat and then perform some kind of teleportation magic. Lufus is surprised and asks what she's doing, and Dina explains she's sending all the orc corpses back to their tower base to turn them into jerky later. Lufus is really impressed, thinking to herself that her advisor is actually pretty talented. With the battle over, they decide to go free the kidnapped village women. When they find the women, they're all safe, just a little tired and scared. Dina reports that none of them were defiled by the orcs, and it looks like they were treated with a lot of care. Lufus isn't surprised and says that this is natural because, according to the in-game lore, orcs are actually gentlemen who handle women with care, trying to win their affection instead of forcing themselves on them. Dina is shocked that creatures with pig faces could be so considerate. Lufus thinks that even if the lore is true, the women were still terrified of being kidnapped, so, in the end, humans and orcs can probably never live in peace. As she's thinking, she uses her alchemize skill to create a golem called Hrungnir's right arm to stand guard. Dina then offers to erase the women's memories of being kidnapped, and Lufus asks how much control she has over that magic. Dina casually says that if she wanted to, she could even implant false memories and personalities. Lufus is a bit creeped out by how casually she says this and asks if the treatment can be undone. Dina says it rarely ever comes undone, which Lufus correctly interprets as meaning it can be undone with the right opportunity. Lufus decides against it for now, saying it's not necessary. They return to the village, and the families are overjoyed to be reunited. The village chief thanks them and gives them their payment of 500 L. Lufus gives them the golem she created, telling them to use it as a guardian for the village, and the chief is so grateful he calls her a messenger from God, which makes Dina blush and say that's not true at all. As they're leaving, the villagers ask for their names. Lufus starts to say her real name, but Dina quickly covers her mouth and shouts that her name is Svalu. Lufus is annoyed and pinches her, asking what that was all about. Dina says she can't just go around using the name Lufus, and that Svalu is an alias. But Lufus yells at her for just rearranging the letters of her name. With money in their pockets and some orc tenderloin to boost their stats, they officially begin their journey to the city of Svel. Lufus's plan is to stop one of her former subordinates, Ares the Ram of the 12 Heavenly Stars, who has been repeatedly invading Svel. She also wants to investigate the surviving members of the 7 heroes who defeated her, starting with Megrez, who founded Svel. She suspects that some of them might be other players who were transported to this world just like her. As they travel, they see a strange light, and Dina explains that it's mana, a sign that the land is rich with it and that they're getting close to Svel. Soon, they see the city in the distance, a beautiful place surrounded by water, and Dina gets super excited. At the city gates, a guard asks for their pass, and Dina confidently hands one over. The guard checks it and sees they are registered as free traders named Dina and Svalu. He lets them pass, and Lufus internally panics, realizing the fake pass Dina must have created is somehow completely legitimate. Once inside, Dina explains that Svel was founded by the wise King Megrez, one of the 7 heroes, and is a major hub for mages and scholars because of its rich mana. The glow from the lake is actually pure mana. Lufus remembers the game lore that her race, the Heaven-Winged, don't like mana, but she finds that it doesn't bother her at all. In fact, she finds it novel and pleasant. Her first order of business is not to storm Megrez's castle, but to find a library. She explains to Dina that she knows too little about the 200 years she was sealed away and needs to catch up on history. They ask a nearby mercenary named Gantz for directions, and he's friendly enough to show them the way. Dina introduces herself and then introduces Lufus as her suspicious employer in a red cape named Svalu, which earns her another pinch from Lufus. Gantz laughs it off and leads them to a monorail that will take them to the east area where the libraries are. Lufus is surprised by the modern technology. Gantz mentions that the city isn't as populated as it used to be because of the constant attacks from Ares, but he says they don't need to worry because the entire lake surrounding the city is actually a massive water golem named Levia that Megrez created to act as its guardian deity. Lufus uses her appraisal skill and is impressed to see that Levia is level 500 with an outrageous amount of HP. They thank Gantz and take the monorail to the library. Inside, Lufus is shocked to see the selection of books. Alongside books praising the 7 heroes, there are many books critical of them, with titles like The Glory and Foolishness of the 7 Heroes and Kill the 7 Heroes, Humanity's Biggest Mistake. She finds it bizarre that Megrez, one of the heroes, would allow such treasonous books in his own nation. Dina explains that he doesn't run an oppressive government and that, over time, Lufus's reputation has actually improved. The fear people felt has faded, and now many believe that the world was better off under her rule, especially since the devil folk are now a huge threat. Lufus starts reading and learns the history of the past 200 years. After she was defeated, the devil folk who had been hiding in fear of her power immediately went on the offensive. The 7 heroes tried to fight them but were defeated, and now humanity's territory is steadily shrinking. The world is on the brink of ruin, and they have no way to fight back. Lufus is stunned. She knew things were bad, but she didn't realize humanity was on the verge of extinction. Just as she finishes her research, a massive earthquake shakes the entire city. Lufus immediately recognizes the feeling. It's not a natural disaster, but a skill that only one being has, Ares. She realizes he's attacking the city right now. Dina says they should take the monorail to the border, but Lufus says that's too slow. Instead, she uses alchemies to create a futuristic flying vehicle and tells Dina to get on. As they fly towards the border, Lufus is deeply confused. The Ares she remembers from the game was a gentle, peace-loving rainbow sheep who hated conflict. She can't understand why he would be attacking a city. Then, a memory that isn't hers flashes in her mind, an image of a small crying sheep. She understands now that Ares is attacking because she, his master, was struck down by the heroes. He's not invading. He's getting revenge. Realizing her little crybaby sheep is in pain, she tells Dina to hurry as they speed towards the battle.